All right, Michael, I don't want to step on your story, so if I'm moving you forward too much, you let me know. But this is all very important, and I have a lot of questions, and I know Jeff has a lot of questions about what you've told us so far, and these are important issues, but it seems that the authorities have somehow turned this into a completely different controversy about you eavesdropping and illegally, quote unquote, taking recordings. So how did your fight over your cars in your yard become a fight over you recording something?
Well, basically, the way it transitions into the next county, I'm starting out in Lawrence County in Bridgeport, Illinois, which is in Lawrence County. Mm-hmm. And the way that it transitioned to Crawford County and in Robinson, Illinois, which my mother lives in Robinson, I was in the process of restoring a 1987 Cadillac that actually belongs to my mother. It was her car, and it was parked in her driveway. It was on private property. And I was restoring the motor in that 1987 Cadillac for my mother. And I was in the backyard of my mother's house exactly 71 days after I had voluntarily dismissed my case against Bridgeport. And I did that strategically to be able to refile it within a year and all of my deadlines for my discovery restart. So I strategically dismissed the case against Bridgeport with the intent to refile it, and 71 days after I had done that, I was working on my mother's car, and I noticed a police car stop in front of her house. So I walked up to the front of the house, and the police officer is a Robinson City police officer, and his name's Rutan, and his first name's William.
William Rutan.
William.
Now, what year was this?
This was actually in late 2008. It was in November of 2008.
Okay.
And I dismissed my case against Bridgeport in September of 2008. And so I was working on this car, and here comes the Robinson City Police, and he gets out of his car, and he tells me that the vehicles that are sitting parked in the driveway are in violation of the city ordinance. And because I happen to have a 1974 Chevrolet pickup truck that I was rebuilding the motor in, it also parked right beside my mother's Cadillac, and I owned the pickup. So he said that the two vehicles that were parked in the driveway were in violation of this ordinance, and that they were going to take action against me. So I told him, I said, the Cadillac belongs to my mother, and the pickup belongs to me. And I said, I know what this is all about. I've dealt with it in the city of Bridgeport. And if you take any action against me or cause me to have to pay any fines or anything like that, then I'm going to sue you and sue the city over the same issue, just like I did the city of Bridgeport. And eventually we got into the whole situation that, that I was basically telling them flat out that I was going to expose their scheme, just like I had done with the city of Bridgeport, because I had already mentioned in my court case, I've laid out every piece step by step of how they were obtaining these titles fraudulently and illegally, and how they were doing it step by step. And I did that before I dismissed the case. So they already knew that I knew every piece of information that I needed to be able to prove that everyone involved in this is involved in a vehicle theft and extortion racket, mm-hmm. And it's a racketeering situation. It's a conspiracy to commit racketeering and extortion.
All right, Michael,
and I laid out every piece of it in my court case before I dismissed it.
When you were talking with this William Rutan, were you recording that conversation?
At the first time, whenever he first showed up, it caught me off guard. I wasn't prepared for it.
Okay.
So once the threats and the intimidation was taking place during that first incident, I started thinking I need to be prepared for whatever's to come next. Mm-hmm. So that's basically where I started documenting everything that I could that was involved in this whole illegal scheme.
Yeah. So what you took video recording equipment when they came on your property and started recording them, or what?
Basically, some of the reports that say video, that's not right. The recording involved in question is just audio only. And
it's audio, all right. With your cell phone or what?
It's just a digital recorder.
A digital recorder.
Yeah.
Can you tell me the brand or what kind of?
It was an Olympus.
Okay.
Olympus DS30, I believe, is the brand.
All right. Thank you. I didn't need that much detail, but you just have this little recorder, and so every time you're confronting someone from the local police, you record them. Do they see the recorder?
At various times, I had it right out in the open, and at various times, maybe they didn't know it. I don't know.
I got you.
I don't know. The point of that issue is that I never tried to hide it.
Right.
And they knew what was taking place whenever every time that they had an incident where they came and tried to harass me, they knew that I was documenting it. And the next incident when Rutan showed up, that happened right on my mother's front step on her front porch. And how they can claim an expectation of privacy whenever they came here and to harass and threaten me. On my mother's property,
right.
And that, it's not like that. I walked into their bathroom or something.
Exactly.
In their own house. They came here to threaten me, so I didn't invite them, and I told them I just wanted to be left alone. I told them I knew what this was all about. I've dealt with it before, and I just wanted to be left alone.
So I'd like to give a little editorial comment here, Mike, if you don't mind. It seems to me that the police, here they have cameras on the police cars recording them, and you might have a security camera in somebody's home, and so it's pretty normal these days to find yourself being recorded. I believe, and I'll get your comment on this, or maybe you don't want to touch this, it seems to me that the police are hiding something. It seems to me that if the police were following the rules and doing everything by the book, they wouldn't mind you recording them.
Yeah.
But there's some reason why they don't want you to record them.
And that gets back to the backstory of everything that I've laid out. Is I'm not facing the potential time that this bogus eavesdropping statute calls for, simply because of the recordings may or may not exist. It's the bare fact that I was trying to and attempting to expose the underlying corruption and their whole scheme, and I threatened to basically bring down their whole scheme.
Okay, and, Michael, we've got about 6 minutes left. Where does it stand? So, were you arrested one day for videotaping them?
The way that all happened was they ended up issuing a citation saying that I was in violation of a city ordinance in a city that I don't even reside in, and I don't own any private property in. But they were saying that I was in violation of a city ordinance that governs real property located in the city limits of the city of Robinson, which basically means that the citation they wrote out was bogus and without jurisdiction, without merit. And that citation sent me to a court in Crawford County, and I knew that the court case was going to be just as crooked and bogus as what the police were. And so I went the day before the court hearing and requested a court reporter, and my request was denied. I was talking to the circuit clerk, and she denied my request. I re-requested. She denied it again, and while I was talking to her, I had my digital recorder in my hand, and it was turned off at the time, and I was using it as a visual aid. And I said, I want a record made of this court hearing because I intend to use it as to sue the city police, the city attorney, and everybody involved in this whole vehicle scam, and just like I did the city of Bridgeport. So I told them flat out every time that I was dealing with them that I was going to take action against them for what they were doing against me.
Were you ever taken to jail just specifically for the audio recording?
Yeah, and that gets into the whole situation that happened the very next day. Even though I never specifically said that I intended to record the court hearing, they anticipated that I had intended to, and they knew that in advance and never told me you can't do this. You know, they didn't volunteer the fact that would be prohibited. They just the circuit clerk at some point in time, in between the time that I talked to her on January 12th of 2009 and the 13th of the very next day of 2009, the judge that was sitting in over this bogus ordinance hearing, and the sheriff deputy who was acting as a bailiff, the city attorney who was prosecuting the alleged ordinance violation, everyone in that courtroom knew what was about to happen when I walked through that door, except for me. And what basically happened was, as soon as I walked through the door, the judge looked right at me as I was putting the recorder in my pocket. I was facing her and walking through the door at the same time. And she didn't even start the hearing, and she asked me a question while I was still walking through the door. She said, "Do you have a recording device on you?" And I responded. She said, "Is it turned on?" And I said, I responded once again. So when she heard the answer to those two questions, she proceeded to read the Illinois eavesdropping statute that she had laid out on her desk. It was already open to the page, and the book was open, and she quoted the statute based on the fact that I answered those two questions, and now that she has confirmed that I have the recorder, she quotes the statute and then informs me that I have just committed a Class 1 felony offense of eavesdropping against her personally, because she did not give her consent to being recorded, and I violated her right to privacy in this open court hearing.
Okay, now where did the 75 years? Where did the 75 years in prison? Where did that come from?
She went on to after she told me to turn it off. She read the statute and said that I was just in violation of a Class 1 felony, or that I had just committed a Class 1 felony, and she told me to turn it off. So then she goes ahead and proceeds with this bogus ordinance hearing, and even though she's just told me that apparently I'm a criminal, and that she's apparently the alleged victim of this alleged crime, she goes ahead and instead of instantly having me arrested, or even instantly recusing herself from going further with this bogus court hearing, she goes ahead with this bogus court hearing, and at the end of this hearing, she sets a court date for a bench trial, and then tells me that I'm free to go. And the sheriff deputy, who was acting as a bailiff, stopped me at the door and said, "You're under arrest for eavesdropping." And I said, "She told me to turn it off," and I turned it off. And he said, "You're under arrest for eavesdropping with the circuit clerk yesterday and with the city attorney's secretary about a week ago." So he asked me, "Am I going to have any problem?" And he was reaching for his handcuffs. And I said, "No, I can't believe I can't believe this is even happening, but you ain't going to have any problem. You do whatever you got to do."
Okay, Michael, we got a minute to go. So what do you think is going to be the ultimate? Obviously, none of us here want to see you go to jail over this,
right?
So what's your attack here? We got about a minute to go, and we're off the air.
Okay. My attorney has came onto the case, and he's challenged the constitutionality of this eavesdropping statute.
Yes.
And that's basically where it rests right now, is that we have a motion to dismiss based on the fact that the statute is unconstitutional.
Who came up with this 75 years in prison business?
Basically, that's
charges,
what the statute calls for. I didn't explain that part of it. Once they seized the recorder, they went through the recorder after they illegally obtained the recorder and kept it illegally. once they had let
You
me
have 30
go,
seconds.
they kept the recorder and went through it and found every other instance where they wanted to hit me with another count.
Okay.
So that's where they piled them all on, and where they had their what they're saying is that they have evidence to.
Right,
have
Michael,
probable
Allison,
cause.
thank you for being with us.
Yeah.
We're at the end of the show. If you want more information, you can go to Mike Hansen Archives on YouTube.com.
Okay, see you next week, folks, maybe for the last time.